Ben, welcome to the Tread Podcast. I know this is a super uh, interesting one. I'm definitely looking forward to it. People had a lot of questions for you, so I appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. So I know you don't have a ton of time, so let's just get right into it. First things first, like why did you choose Tennessee? Right, you grew up in I think Knoxville, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I mean, I've been a Tennessee fan my whole life, to be honest. So it was kind of a dream come true to actually come here and play baseball. And I mean, out of high school, I wasn't really recruited at all. So I was lucky enough to get into Walter State and kind of through a connection with my high school coach. And then just had those 2 years to develop, and then finally was getting seen by some people um, my second year at Walter State, and was lucky enough to get offered by Tennessee. So that's kind of a dream come true for me.
Did you go to like Tennessee camps growing up? Like, is that a school you always were trying to play at, and that you just weren't quite good enough at that point?
Yeah, I went to a lot of the like PBR camps at Tennessee, and just kind of like tried to do the prospect camps and stuff around the area and get noticed by them. But I mean, I just kind of I wasn't developed enough, and I really wasn't good enough at the time. So and then I mean, going to Walter State was kind of perfect for that. Just give me 2 extra years to develop. So yeah, I wasn't really on their radar, I guess, in high school, but I was always trying to be.
Gotcha. So take me through that. Take me through the kind of development velocity progression from like freshman year of high school to now, because from your like perfect game profile, I think you're up to 95 in high school. Like so you weren't on their radar even like touching 95.
That yeah, that was actually the summer after my senior year at a perfect
Okay.
game tournament. And I was already like, I think it was like almost August, so it was probably too late at that point. But I mean, freshman year of high school, I was topping at 66, I think. I was like 5'4", like 95 pounds. I barely made the team, just kind of like was on JV for freshman and sophomore year. I think my junior year, I kind of got over 80, like 80, maybe 82, 83. And then my senior year, I hit a growth spurt between junior and senior year, and I kind of went up to touching 90, 92. And then the summer after my senior year, I touched 95.
Gotcha. So that's a pretty atypical kind of story for guys that throw hard. Like most of them are like blowing 85 by the time they were freshmen in high school. Like, do you feel like that was a benefit to you in the fact that you maybe had to learn to pitch a little bit more or had to develop your mechanics a little bit more? Like, how do you view the fact that you were much more of like this late bloomer type of pitcher?
I think that that helped me in a lot of ways, especially just kind of gave me a chip on my shoulder. Honestly, just I mean, I felt like I had to work harder than everyone, and I mean, I feel like I still have that chip on my shoulder just because I feel like I was so underappreciated throughout high school and even into junior college. So it just kind of gave me that chip on my shoulder and want to work harder than everyone, and I think it kind of it led me to be where I am now, just having that chip and wanting to work harder every day.
Take me through that growth spurt, right? You said you grew, I think I read you grew 8 inches over that summer.
Mhm.
Like to me personally, I grew 8 inches sophomore or leading to my freshman year. So I have like
Mhm.
stretch marks all through my back. Like, um, do you have like a bunch of stretch marks? Like, did you have growing pains? Like, did you have to shut down throw? Like, was there anything about that process that made it a little bit tricky growing so fast, or was it just pretty smooth
Yeah,
sailing?
yeah. I actually had to shut down throwing junior year for a little bit. Actually, for my whole junior season, I couldn't throw. I had like the little league elbow, little league shoulder,
Okay,
like growth plate issues. And then my freshman year at Walter State, I was still having those same growth plate issues. And then I guess they finally closed up after that year. But yeah, I had to shut down throwing. I had back issues, hip issues. So it was good to grow that much, but like just growing in that short of a time, I think it led to a lot of other issues that kind of prevented me from throwing and doing what I wanted to do. So it was tough for those few years.
so do you credit like a coach that you had at the time, or like your parents for like kind of pulling you from competing? Like, is this something where it was so painful you just couldn't play, or is it something where like you were kind of recommended, hey, let's take it easy so that you don't do anything permanent or damage to your body? Like, do you credit a coach with like holding you back because you wanted to compete, or was it like there's no way I can play, I'm in too much pain?
It was honestly I was in too much pain. I think I actually ended up fracturing the growth plate from trying to throw. And I was just in so much pain all the time. And the doctor that did my Tommy John surgery, actually, I saw him in high school as well, because he's from the Knoxville area, and he was like, it's not going to get better unless you just stop throwing and let it heal and let yourself grow a little bit. So, I mean, I guess if I give credit to anyone, to be him and my high school coach. They kind of let me take my time and do what I needed to do to grow and I guess feel good throwing. So, yeah, I mean, I was in a lot of pain, but they really led me to shut down as well.
Do you feel like that was it was somewhat helpful to be a little bit of a late bloomer where there wasn't this like pressure on you all through high school where you weren't like the guy that your team needed you to go like 7 innings every single start. Like you could kind of like compete but be a little bit under the radar where there wasn't this like overwhelming pressure the entire time, like being one of these top prospects. Like, do you feel like that was a benefit, or did it make it more challenging not being on any school's radars, like not knowing like am I going to play in college, where am I going to play in college?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I mean, we talk about it a lot now. Like me and my parents, like my arms so much more fresh now. I guess is a word you could say. Just I mean, I haven't racked up the innings that a lot of people
Yep.
have, and I feel like I'm just continuing to kind of climb up and get better every time. So I think it was a positive in that way. But I mean, it was tough going through high school. I was at a good program. Farragut High School is a good baseball program, so there was a lot of people getting recruited, and I was just kind of sitting in the back, like, am I going to get any offers, or am I going to be able to go to this D1 school that I want to go to? And it actually ended up being a blessing going to Walter State, but like at the time, it was kind of tough just being in the back and not feeling like I was contributing at all.
Do you feel like that was helpful in terms of the mental side, like learning to kind of be a competitor and having to have more of an underdog mentality?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I've kind of carried that same mentality throughout Walter State, and even now, just every time I pitch, I'm just kind of think back on the times like when I wasn't pitching and I was just kind of sitting back and not contributing. So it makes it even better every time that I can go out there and contribute now to the team and continue to get better every time.
Do you feel like you want to be a starter at the next level? Are you open to being a starter? You mentioned you don't have a ton of wear and tear. You have at TJ, which we'll talk about here, but you don't have maybe the hundreds and hundreds of innings over your career on your arm. Is that something that you're open to doing, or because you get obviously put in this box as like closer profile just because of how you throw? Is that something where you kind of want to change that stigma and we would want to start at the next level, or you just wherever they'll put you, you're gonna pitch?
I mean, wherever they put me is good, but I mean, I'd love to start. I started at Walter State, and it was awesome. Actually, I threw 4 innings on Sunday, so that was
Yep.
that was exciting to kind of know that I can do that still and kind of maintain my velocity. So I would definitely be open to starting, but it's just kind of wherever I end up.
Has part of the approach been at Tennessee this year, like because you're coming off TJ, they're trying to like ramp you up a little bit more slowly versus maybe they might have wanted you to be a starter, but they're hesitant to do that because of the workload and coming off surgery.
Yeah, I mean, our coach is always big on we want to play our best in May and June just for the postseason. So they really wanted to take it slow and make sure I was getting good reps, but I was still comfortable and not pushing it too much. Especially I was only like 16 months out of Tommy John when the season started, so they didn't want to completely just throw me in there, but they still wanted me to get the experience that I needed. So it was more like 1 inning, 2 inning kind of outings. And I mean, even at the beginning, it was almost like two batters, just make sure I'm getting out there, but not doing too much. And now I think I'm kind of over that hump and starting to have them trust me a little more. So it's exciting to kind of have gotten over that hump. But they definitely wanted to start out slow at the beginning of the year.
Awesome, and obviously credit to them. Like that's not always the norm, especially at the college level
Mhm.
where these coaches are paid to win. So I've definitely seen examples of that in my experience where that doesn't happen. So credit to them. Let's touch on your Tommy John rehab and the Tommy John process in general. Take me through when that first happened. Like, when did you know? First off, was it immediate pop or was it kind of a more gradual thing? And then just take me through kind of the process from that initial injury to kind of all the way through the rehab and how that went. So how did that go down?
Yeah. So I got to Tennessee and fall of 2020, and I was kind of ramping up. That was after the COVID year, so I'd kind of been throwing continuously that whole year. And then we had our first inter squad and I threw 1 inning, and my very last pitch, I felt a pop. Luckily, it was the end of the inning, so I kind of went off the field, and um, I almost like thought I just like imagined it, and then I went back out to start throwing the second inning, and I guess I made a face or something, and the trainer came out and was like, something doesn't look right. So I ended up having I think it was a complete tear. Um, and then I got the Tommy John October of 2020, and the first couple months were really just kind of range of motion stuff, just trying to get the range of motion back. And one thing you touched on it before the podcast was mobility. That was one thing we really focused on throughout the recovery, just because I was a little heavier before, and I felt like I was super tight, and I think that might have led me to kind of put a lot more pressure on my elbow. So that was one thing we focused on a lot, and I was just really trying to get as strong and as fast as I could throughout those first 5 months when I wasn't throwing and I was just lifting. And then I think at 5 months I started throwing, so that was around March. Um, it was kind of the normal like structured throwing program coming back, and I really didn't have any problems until I got to about I think I was about to get off the mound, and I had some. It kind of like flared up a little bit, so we kind of pushed it back a little, and then it started feeling great after that. So I got off the mound probably July, August, and then started throwing in scrimmages at the end of August, beginning of September. And then I kind of threw continuously from then until the season started.
So really, just that one like very minor setback.
Yeah, I wouldn't even really call it a setback. I think it was just kind of like the getting through the end of the long toss program, and I was kind of
Right.
just like feeling it a little bit. And that was at the same time like we went to Omaha last year, so it was kind of hard to get on that schedule. So it just kind of like messed with the schedule a little bit. That was really the only time I ever kind of stopped throwing at all, was just that one little like 2 week period.
Gotcha. So you touched on it here before, but so you've been up to
Yeah.
100 at Walter State. Um, what were the main changes that you made across that time frame? So you mentioned mobility. Like, what type of stuff were you doing from a mobility standpoint? Um, have you always been pretty mobile, or like you just in that period of time, the past year or two, had started to feel tight, or it was a complete like 180 in terms of the mobility and the ranges of motion that you were able to get? And then maybe from a strength standpoint, like what else changed in your body across that 12, 16 months?
Yeah, I mean, at Walter State, I was really just trying to get as strong as I could. So I was honestly almost doing bodybuilder type workouts, just really trying to get as strong and as physical as I could. I was probably up to almost 240 at Walters, and it was probably mostly muscle, but I was really not focusing on mobility at all. So I think that was one thing when I came here and I got hurt. I was like, all right, I need to do something a little different and really like focus on recovery and mobility more, so that I can stay healthy and continue to get stronger, but in the right way. So I'm like right under 230 now, so I lost a little bit of weight, but I think I'm a lot stronger than I was and a lot faster. So I think in the long run, just kind of working on that mobility and trying to stay loose and getting in those deep positions has really benefited me a lot more than just trying to get as strong as I can.
Gotcha. So that's something you've actively tried to work on. It's not just like some people look at Aurelus Chapman, right? Aurelus Chapman naturally is very, very, very loose. Like he can just touch his like elbows behind his body, and it doesn't look like he does a ton of mobility work. Like he can go and bench press, 315 plus, and just like never loses that. But that's something that for you, you specifically emphasize that, specifically focused on it, and you've had to work to get into some of those positions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that I honestly every day I'll kind of go through a pretty good routine with mobility, just trying to stay loose and continue to get into those deep positions. And I think that's helped me gain a little more on my velocity and also stay healthy this year.
Real quick, like what are some of the things you do there? Are you doing like stretches for your pecs, your lats, your
Mhm.
tricep? Are you doing soft tissue work or more like stretching type work? Are you just lifting through full ranges of motion? Like what type of stuff do you do to work on that?
Honestly, kind of all those. Like I'll go in and foam roll and use a lacrosse ball, just kind of really get into the pec and the back of my shoulder. Um, and I'll kind of foam roll everything, but it's really important with the back of the shoulder and the lat and the pec, just kind of keeping those loose. and I do a lot of hangs from the bar before I get started, and then I'll go through a mobility routine, like kind of get my hips going, and a lot of pec stretching, and really trying to get the back of my shoulder as loose as I can because I had really bad internal rotation problems in my shoulder,
Mhm.
which kind of led to the injury as well. So that's kind of something my trainer and me have been focusing on a lot here at Tennessee. But yeah, I mean, I'll go through all that and squatting. I try to go through pretty deep ranges of motion. I'll do occasionally do barbell bench press. Just really trying to get into those ranges of motion that I'm going to be in pitching and putting some force on it, just so that I know that I'm able to handle it when I get out there and throw.
So while we're on this topic, like let's touch on some like physical stats. I guess
Mhm,
first thing you mentioned you were up to 240 and you've kind of dropped down 10, 15 pounds from your heaviest.
mhm.
Have you mostly kind of lost fat, or do you feel like you've lost a little bit of that bulk and muscle mass as well? And how do you think about that? Like, do you find that like you found this happy medium where you're lean but also mobile, but not too big, not too bulky, or do you feel
Yeah.
like there's no such thing as like being too strong, too big? Like, talk to me about like that kind of spectrum. Where do you see it? Like, are you trying to get to 240 but mobile next year, or you feel like you're in a very happy medium right now, and this is just like the ideal for you, where you're lean, loose, strong, all at the same time?
Yeah, I really like where I'm at. I mean, 240, I felt really good. Like I felt strong, but I just felt tight. So I mean, if I could get there again and stay mobile, that'd be good. But just kind of where I'm at now, I feel like I have the mobility that I need, and I'm continuing to even improve on that a little more. And I feel stronger than I've ever been. So I think where I'm at now, I'm at like 228 ish. I think that's pretty good for me. Maybe like for an off season, I might try to get back up to 240 if I can stay mobile, but right now, I think I'm kind of right where I need to be with that.
And you're 6'5", right?
Yeah, 6'5".
Okay. Um, Take me through like anything else in terms of like kind of body proportions that would be like different. Like, do you know your wingspan? Like, do you have particularly long arms for your height that you've like confirmed? Long fingers, like are your fingers double jointed? Like, is there anything like that really stands out that kind of differentiates you from like another 6'5" pitcher?
Honestly, like I don't know my wingspan or anything, but I don't think it's that crazy. My fingers aren't long, and I don't have any of the double jointed stuff. I think one of the big things I've noticed is the pec mobility has
Mhm.
has really kind of helped me get in that deep kind of
Yep.
retraction throwing wise. But I mean, other than that, I don't think there's really anything crazy abnormal. I mean, I take working out super seriously, so I'd like to think I'm probably stronger than a lot of people. Kind of my size, but I mean, other than that, I don't think it's anything crazy.
Give us an idea of some of your like lifting stats, like maybe dumbbell bench press. Like, can you throw on 100-pound dumbbells? Like, squat, deadlift. Like, just give us a quick idea of some of those numbers, just for reference point.
Yeah, I mean, dumbbell bench press, the heaviest we have here is I think 110, and I'm doing those pretty easily. Barbell bench, I've been up to I think 345. That was a year ago, so I don't know what I would do now. Deadlift is probably my favorite lift. I think I've done 635. I think I can if I could get one of the bigger bars. I don't know what I could do, but that's kind of all I could do right there.
On a
And then
trap
I'm
bar
not
or a straight bar?
the trap bar.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure my squat. I've after Tommy John, I started doing the kind of like the belt squat, so I don't really
Yep.
know kind of what I'm getting there. But I mean, I've
Gotcha.
taken working out super seriously just kind of since I was in middle school, so I think it's really paid off a lot.
So you have been on kind of structured, serious lifting then since like what, 13, 14 years old? Like, that's something you did even through high school?
Yeah, our middle school had like a kind of little program thing, and then me and my brother would always try to do extra stuff. And I mean, that was more like kind of like push-ups and just like
Yeah.
random stuff like that. But, like once I got into high school, we had a pretty structured lifting program. And then, like I said, me and Zach would just do extra, just kind of like look up stuff. Honestly, just try to do whatever we could to get a little edge. And then Walter State, we lifted a lot, and then me and my brother would do some other stuff. It was just kind of always trying to like get as strong as we could and look up stuff to just kind of get an edge and get a little better. So I was kind of always on a structured program, and then kind of doing my own stuff on the side.
Were you guys always like kind of more on the muscular side, like lean but muscular, or was it like you guys were really hard gainers, like skinny, hard to put on weight, and you had to really like learn about nutrition, force like kind of force feed yourself, or it was kind of just came easily for you to once you started working out, you started putting on size pretty easily?
No, it was actually really hard, especially going into high school. We were super skinny, like really hard gainers, and we had to take it really seriously and learn a lot about it. I spent a lot of time at the grocery store with our parents, just kind of trying to get as much as we could and like stay lean, but also really try to put on some weight. And I think we kind of finally figured it out towards the end of high school and into junior college. Me and Zach would kind of make meals and prepackaged meals for the week kind of thing at Walter State. So we really learned a lot about kind of nutrition, what we need to do to gain weight.
If you're going to give another hard gainer, like a hard gainer college kid right now, like your top tip for putting on weight, like a 6'5", 195-pound pitcher, like what would your top tip be that helped you kind of turn the corner from where you were at to finally being able to figure out how to like, okay, I can put on a pound a week, 2 pounds a week once I figured this out?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, one of the huge things that made a difference was getting a lot of calories in at breakfast. Like trying to wake up a little earlier and eat a bigger breakfast. Like not taking away from your sleep, but trying to make sure you get the calories in before class and even like snacks during the day. You kind of need to eat something every hour and a half. I feel like if you're trying to gain weight, and then I mean, mass gainer shakes can be good. I did that a lot in high school, just trying to get as many extra calories as I could. But I think breakfast was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, that's one of the keys we always tell our guys is like if you're trying to put in 4,000, 5,000 calories in a day and you try to do it like you don't eat breakfast, you don't eat your first meal till noon. Now you're trying to cram that
Mm,
into like an 8 hour window versus if you get 1,000, 2,000 calories in first half of the day, it's like pretty easy to hit those numbers the second half of the
yeah.
day. Did you always like track your calories? Like were you that religious about it, or was it just like I need to eat a bunch of meals and just eat a lot of food at every meal?
There was a little bit of time at Walters where I tried to track them, but I mean, towards the end of high school and going into Walter State, I was honestly just trying to eat as much good, clean food as I could. And there was even some times where I would eat dessert just to try to get some extra calories. But I've always been pretty strict about what I eat and just
Mm.
trying to make sure I get enough, but it's still clean.
Awesome. Going back to some of the physical stats, we kind of touched on the strength side. Like obviously you rank pretty high on those numbers. Um, like any power numbers, like can you dunk a basketball super easily? Like your vertical jump, broad jump, like anything you could think of from that standpoint.
I don't know any of those numbers, but I mean, yeah, I can dunk pretty easily. I'm typically one of the faster guys when we run sprints here for pitchers. So I mean, I've kind of noticed a big increase in the power and speed, which I think has correlated a lot to throwing.
Let's real quick talk about you mentioned your brother Zach. So for people who don't know, you have an identical twin, Zach. On myself, I'm also a twin, not identical though. So fun fact. Um,
Uh,
you guys both threw upper 90s at Walter State. Um, he had Tommy John as well. He had Tommy John about a year before you, correct?
yeah.
And then he ran into some complications. I think you mentioned it was like scar tissue. Is there anything you can pinpoint that was maybe different about the rehab process? Because kind of both you guys were on similar tracks, and then that seemed to be where things kind of diverged, and he kind of ran into those issues. Um, what can you pinpoint, if anything, about you? I know you might have had better resources available at that time to you. Is there anything you could think of from that standpoint?
Yeah, that I think that was the biggest thing was I mean, he had it at such a tough time. Like he had it the January right before the seasons got canceled, so he was kind of doing most of the like heavy stuff on his own, and just kind of like trying to find people to throw with and all that. So he kind of had a tough couple months, and then he got to Tennessee, and I think it was August or the end of July. So he was kind of past the main parts where you really need someone. So it was kind of trying to catch up at that point, and that's when he kind of ran into the issues. I think.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. A lot of it was like scar tissue related.
Mhm.
Our experience, like in those first couple months, really is the critical point to like regain that range of motion and make sure that because that's when the scar tissue does get laid down. Is that he just didn't have anybody to work through the scar tissue, anyone to work through the range of motion, do some of those mobilizations on him then?
Yeah, I mean, he was really kind of doing most of it on his own, and so I guess it was if you would have had someone, I'm sure it would have been a little different. But yeah, he was just kind of trying to do it on his own, and I think he needed someone to work with him.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just think that shows how important it is, especially early
Mhm.
on. I mean, I've had UCL surgery myself, and like I had some scar tissue related issues, like with my nerve coming back, and like it's just such an important piece that people overlook. Like it's such
Mhm.
important. Even most therapists overlook that as a part of the treatment, even if they're doing like tissue work. Like there's some things that we've kind of figured out that are very very helpful from that standpoint. Um,
Yeah.
Everyone wants to know about your kind of throwing routines. Take me through that. Like, did you do a lot of long toss in high school? Did you do a long toss now? Are you a weighted ball guy? Are you a plyo care ball guy? Like, what does your throwing program look like currently? And then
Yeah, I
how
mean,
has that evolved?
I think it's gonna disappoint a lot of people. I really, I mean, I long tossed in high school, um, pretty often, but once I got to Tennessee, I really I don't long toss at all. I'm really just kind of go back to maybe 120 feet and just pull down. I'm pretty high effort every day. I'm probably almost 100% effort most days throwing wise, and then I mean like if I throw a lot, maybe the next day I'll take it a little light, but I mean, I take the warm up super seriously, and I kind of go through a J band routine. It's more of just kind of like get the shoulder moving and get the arm moving, and then I don't do weighted balls. I'll do the plyo balls, kind of the reverse throws and the pivot picks, and then throw a couple like with a little lighter one, just to kind of get my arm moving, get my core going. Um, but that's really it. I don't do a weighted ball program or plyo balls or anything like that. It's just kind of try to get my core activated and get everything going, and then I'll go out and just really throw pretty high effort every day.
So when you say throw high effort, like let's say you work out and catch play to like 120 feet, are you doing all that throwing like out of your delivery? Are you doing like a shuffle throw? Are you doing like a little like kind of curl hop type thing? Are you working through like
Mhm.
different drills as you work out, or is it just it's all out of your delivery?
Mostly I'm like kind of like from the stretch, almost just like sideways and throwing, and then I'll try to keep the same mechanics going out, and then I'll shuffle maybe like if we have a game or like I know I'm gonna throw that day, I'll probably do like five. But like if it's a practice day, I'll pull down probably like 5 to 10 throws. Just really trying to like feel my body moving fast and just kind of feel like everything's on time. So that's kind of a big thing that I've noticed is like the timing for me. I can kind of almost feel when everything's moving right and my arms on time. So I think the pulling down from 90 to 120 feet has helped me more than long tossing, especially for my arm path.
Do you ever like radar gun the pull downs or any of that stuff, or you more just like using it to kind of feel like you can visually see when like the ball's popping and like that it came out at lower effort, and was
Mhm.
sequenced, or have you like gone and like done the whole like velo type thing with pull downs?
No, I've never done the velo on it. I can kind of tell when it's good, and honestly, I don't really like at that point. I don't really want to like think about that too much.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of just like I can tell when everything's on time and feel when it feels good. So I think that's kind of good enough for me. Maybe in the off season I'll mess with some of that, but like right now it's just kind of trying to feel the sequence on time and just kind of know when it's coming out of my hand good.
Yeah, definitely not saying you need to go do any of that stuff. Like you talk to like Jacob Degrom, it's a lot of the same. Like he focuses on sequencing, being smooth, hitting positions. Like I'm definitely not suggesting you need to go like change what you're doing at all. Um, are you a just throwing on the mound guy, or do you like throwing flat grounds too? Like do you kind of do both, or you like feel like you need to get the timing right on the slope and don't do as much time on flat ground?
I'd rather do like a short box than a flat ground just because I feel like it kind of everything moves a little differently
Yep.
off the slope. But coming back from Tommy John, I threw a lot more flat grounds than I ever have. Just really trying to feel the spin off my fingers, especially with working on off speed pitches. I think that did help a lot. But I'm more of a I'd rather be off the mound and kind of feel the slope.
Gotcha. People wanted to know as well, like, do you typically have like a shutdown period in the off season? Like you said, you throw pretty often, pretty high effort. Um, what's your normal like yearly kind of cycle look like? I know obviously like you haven't, it's not like you've been playing in the big leagues for 10 years to where you like have a set routine. But do you normally like to take a month off, 2 months off, 3 months off, or just kind of keep playing light catch through the off season?
I kind of like to keep playing light catch. I feel like just if I'm focusing on lifting and not keeping my arm moving at all, I'll just kind of get tight and not be able to feel the same once I start throwing again. So I think if I'm just kind of even playing light catch every couple of days when I'm really focusing on lifting and trying to get stronger, I think that helps me a lot more in the long run. So I'm kind of maybe I'll take like a week or two completely off of throwing, but other than that, I like to just kind of keep my arm moving in some way. Just feel those positions, even if it's not as high effort. Just kind of try to keep the arm moving and feel that arm path still.
How does your how does your lifting change in season? So like um, for me personally, like if I try to get in pretty deep positions, like I've got pretty good mobility, maybe not quite where you're at. But if I go like heavy pressing, heavy bench, like there will be like a 1 to 2 day period where like I can tell I'm not getting in good positions. Like my body like is kind of tight for like those next 24 to 48 hours. Like a, do you feel that, or you can go lift heavy and like you feel completely fine the next day? Um, or do you have to adjust things consciously around your bullpen schedule, around like in season, to make sure that you're not sore and you're not getting that kind of upper body tightness feeling at any point?
Yeah, I usually, I mean, it's kind of weird being a reliever just because I don't really know exactly like when I'm going to pitch. But we usually lift Monday and Thursday, so right after the weekend and then right before the next one. So I'm kind of trying to push myself on Monday, and I take working out super seriously, and it's kind of one of my favorite things to do. So I'm still pushing myself weight wise. Usually like a squat and then a bench kind of full body lift on Mondays. And I'm going pretty heavy on those because I feel like I can recover pretty well now. And then on Thursday, it's usually a deadlift and some kind of overhead movement. And I mean, I'm pushing myself in all of them. Maybe if I'm a little sore, I'll take it lighter. But right now, I don't. My body feels good, so I haven't really seen any reason to not kind of keep
Yeah.
pushing myself.
Do you find that like the next day after you really pushed yourself on like a pressing movement or like a bench press movement that you feel like tight at all, or you're just like it's all the same, like you feel fine?
Yeah, like I'll feel a little tight, maybe kind of in my pec or the back of my shoulder. But once I get moving and work it out, I'm big on the lacrosse ball up there. So I mean, I think that once I kind of get it moving and get it worked out, I usually feel pretty good. So I haven't really had a problem with that this year.
Is there anything athletically that you can do that's like maybe different from everybody else? Like if there was like one thing that you do that's like way better than everybody else on the team, like can you walk on your hands, do a backflip, like throw a medicine ball further than anybody else? Like what's like one thing that everyone's like, how the hell does he do that?
I actually do walk on my hands a lot. I
Okay.
almost use it as arm care. Kind of after I pitch, I think I can probably do that a lot better than most people. And
Did you just teach
um,
yourself that like through high school, or how'd you learn to do that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was just me and Zach having handstand competitions all the time, and when we were younger, and then I just kind of kept doing it, and I think it honestly helps my shoulders and everything kind of recover and feel a lot better, and just continue to get stronger. So, I mean, it was just kind of one of those things where I just randomly started doing it, and I liked it and how it felt, so I just kept
Yeah.
doing it. Medicine ball stuff, I've gotten pretty good at just kind of throwing it. I feel like throwing it a lot harder and faster. So that's one thing I've focused a lot more on this year too. Is medicine ball work as well.
Yeah, it's super interesting you talk about the handstands and like the hangs. Like those are two things we've started doing a lot of with our guys. Like I taught myself how I can walk like 60 feet on my hands now. I couldn't like a year ago. Um, one of the things I feel when doing those is like it like locks your scaps into position. Like you can feel everything real. You feel really stable in that overhead position. And same with the
Mhm.
hangs. Like you feel like you just rock like you're a rock star in this position, like where you're overhead. Is that what you feel when you do them? Like you kind of just feel like you're learning to deal with the instability and just strengthening everything around the scap. Like, um, what do you feel when you're doing those? Like, obviously you're a huge fan of them.
Yeah, definitely with the handstands, I think it's the stability aspect of it. Like I just feel like everything's getting so much stronger in the back of my shoulder due to being in that position. I mean, you're basically holding your whole body weight with your shoulders almost. So I mean, I feel like the stability part of it is really big. And the hangs, I just feel like just help everything kind of lengthen out, especially the lat. It just makes my lats usually feel really good. So those are something I do every day, is hanging. And I think I've seen a lot of benefits with that just in my overall arm health, just kind of how it lengthens everything out and makes everything feel pretty good. So.
So when you're doing the hanging, like is that like a one set in your warm up, or is that are you like are you doing like sets to failure? Are you doing one arm hangs? Are you like accumulating like 5 minutes of hang time a day? Like how do you work those into the program? How do you work the handstand stuff in?
Yeah, with the hangs, it kind of depends on like if I'm more sore or less sore, but I'll usually try to get a couple minutes in a day, just like a couple sets of maybe like a minute and a half, just however I'm feeling, and there'll be some days where I'll just try to like do it as long as I can to failure. And then the handstands is more kind of after I throw in a game or like the next day, I'll do a lot more of those. That's not really as much of an everyday thing now, but probably like 2 or 3 times a week I'll try to do those.
Gotcha. So one thing I saw in your interview with Pitching Ninja with Rob Friedman, I've known him for like 10 years. You showed your fastball grip, and one thing that struck me is it's pretty standard grip, but your fingers are right together. Have you
Hmm.
have you tried? Have you like did you used to throw with your fingers maybe a little bit further apart, and you realize that there's some benefit for you, or you can throw harder, you get better spin efficiency? Like, why do you have your fingers that close? Is it just because it feels good?
Yeah, well, I used to have my fingers apart in high school, and then I was just playing. I think it was probably like my junior senior year. I was playing with a kid, and he was like, "Hey, I throw my fingers together. You should try it." And I just tried it, and it felt way better. I felt like it was coming out harder, and I could honestly, like, I just felt more comfortable that way. So I just continued to do it from then on, and it's just kind of like the most comfortable way for me. Like if I try to throw with my fingers apart now, it just feels weird, and
Yeah,
like I don't know. I just kind of came comfortable with that grip.
yeah. No, that's a common thing that we'll see is like if guys are gripping too far apart, it's like, I mean, you're halfway almost to a splitter at that point.
Mhm.
So just in terms of like applying force through the actual back of the baseball, that's one of the things that we'll see a lot of times, like a mile an hour tick if we adjust that grip. So I
Mhm.
just thought that was interesting, like how you held it that way. Um, are you a big data guy? Like, do you? I know you guys obviously like collect data at Tennessee, but like, do you look at the numbers? Are you trying to shape your slider in the off season? Are you working on carry on your fastball? Like, do you look at the numbers at all, or do you just kind of go out there, throw and compete, and let the coaches worry about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of more just go out there and throw and compete and try to do what I can to help the team win. But in the off season, I do try to like kind of make my pitches as good as I can. So I'll look at numbers and video then. But during the season, I'm kind of just go out there and do what I can to help the team win. And if I feel good and my pitches are working, like I don't really feel like I need to worry about the numbers during the season.
For sure. What's kind of one of your goals for a pitch like next off season? Like are you trying to adjust a movement profile on your fastball? Are you trying to sharpen the slider? Like or trying to add a pitch? Like what's your take there?
I really want to try to add like kind of a cutter, just something a little harder than my slider is
Mm.
now, just to kind of play off the fastball. I think that's probably the next step for me. There's a cutter or like a harder slider this next off season.
Awesome. Let's talk about your mechanics. Obviously, that's what people want to know about. Um, kind of just taking me through, if you wouldn't mind, like kind of walk through this, like what you're trying to do, just kind of start to finish, if you don't mind. Like,
Yeah.
are you thinking anything as you kind of go through your patterns?
To be honest, I don't really think mechanically much when I'm throwing. Um, one big thing for me is just kind of like feel. Like I can really feel when everything's on time and like really I'm just kind of up there like I'm gonna throw this ball as hard or close to as hard as I can every time and whatever happens when I let go of it's kind of out of my control. So this positions I think is probably the most important for me and the one I can feel the most is when I really get like retracted up there with my shoulders. That's
Uh,
kind of one that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, sorry. So you mentioned like you can feel like on time. When you say you
Hmm.
feel on time, like is that for you the ability to like float the arm have the arm up and back right when that front foot hits, like you
Mhm.
can feel that versus like maybe when your arm is like not quite that far back, like that's what you're trying to feel when you talk about the pull downs, talk about getting the timing.
Yeah, yeah, it's really my arm when my foot hits is what I'm trying to feel, and I can kind of tell when it's even just a little bit slow or a little bit too quick. It's just like that position right there is like subconsciously like what I'm trying to feel when I'm throwing. Um, and I'm really just trying to stay like calm with my body and not trying to like be too aggressive because that was a problem I had earlier in the fall coming back from Tommy John is I'd be too aggressive and try
Mhm.
to like whip my arm through too fast and I would kind of be out of control. So just kind of trying to stay under control and then hand speed, just trying to rip the ball as fast as I can is really kind of all I'm thinking.
So a big focus for you then was like the timing of the intensity. It's not like not muscling up too early, but
Mhm.
like allowing the throw to kind of like unfold, um, and allowing
Yeah.
like you talk about like late hand speed, applying that effort
Mhm.
at the last second versus too soon in the throw.
Yeah, like to be honest, I'm really just like up until this point that you have on the screen, like I'm just kind of like calm. Like I slowed down my gather step, and then my leg lift, just kind of really trying to just like stay calm through the whole thing. And then once my foot hits and my arms up, that's when I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try to throw this as hard as I can. Like just really kind of try to use everything I have at
Gotcha,
that point. But up until then, it's kind of just trying to be smooth and not like rotate too early or do too much.
gotcha. So this point is more just like a gather. There's no like
Mhm.
active pushing into the rubber. There's no like trying to jump off the rubber. You're just kind of feeling
Mhm.
yourself balanced, gathered over your lower half.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's kind of all I'm really even thinking about. Then is just kind of staying smooth and gather
Okay.
everything up there over my back leg.
And then as we get into like the hip rotation, are you kind of trying to like rotate your hips fast, or are you more just kind of like relaxing them into landing, like just letting them kind of get into positions and relax open, and just feeling loose with it?
Yeah, it's just really kind of relaxing open. One thing that Coach Anderson, our pitching coach, really worked on with me coming back was I would stride kind of across my body.
Hmm.
So he kind of tried to open it up a little bit. So that I think that led to my hips working a lot better and just kind of being able to relax open instead of having to like rip them through as fast as I could. I think that led to like this position I'm in here with where my hips are open but my shoulders still back.
So have you done any work to like try to stay directional then, like, um, because I know you mentioned that with Rob Friedman, like what type of stuff did you do, or just like consciously thinking about like not striding cross body, or did you do any like specific drills or like draw the line on the mound to like try to stay on the line?
Mhm.
What type of stuff did you do to get away from being as crossbody?
Yeah, I actually started doing I would draw the line on the mound and I would do like dry reps with a towel, like hundreds of them before I even started actually throwing again after Tommy John. So it was kind of just like ingraining that in my head before I even came close to throwing a baseball off the mound. And then that kind of led to catch play. I would kind of try to find a line on the field and try to like see where I was finishing and think about striding directionally to the mound. And I think that really helped everything kind of fall together with my mechanics and like my hips kind of can just do their thing and I don't have to think about anything. And then that leads to my arm being on time and then just everything going from there.
At what point for that change did that go from like you had to think about it to being automatic? Right? Was that just in the tower drills early on, where you were thinking about it, but as soon as you started actually like bringing up the intensity, you found that that's the change that stuck, or is that something that you still kind of like catch yourself or have to remind yourself now and then?
I think it kind of stuck like once I started throwing actual bullpens and like feeling kind of what this position actually feels like with a baseball in my hand. The towel drills were good, but I think until I actually started um, feeling it like actually high effort throwing, I kind of knew what I needed to look for and feel for. So I think that's when it really kind of stuck in my head.
Do you still do dry work, like to work on your routines, work on the direction, or is that more just because you weren't allowed to pick up a ball yet, and so you kind of use it as like a bridge until you could start throwing, and now like throwing is your thing?
Yeah, I'd say probably a couple times a week I'll do like some towel drills on the mound. Like if I haven't gotten off the mound in a couple of days, I'll get up there and do some towel drills before I toss, just to kind of feel the slope and feel my body moving. But definitely not as much as I did
Yeah.
um, at that time.
Yeah, I think people sometimes give towel drills a bad rap because they think of like somebody setting up a bucket in front of the mound and like you have to jump and like hit the bucket and like
Mm,
obviously a terrible idea, but like just doing dry reps to feel something out and just having something in your arm to slow it down so that it's not as stressful on your arm. Like me personally, I know I've done that. And I've seen benefits of that. So that's just
mhm.
interesting to hear that's your experience. Let's go into like this position right here. Like as you get from that position where you're like I'm on time, I can feel my arm back, like it's go time, to ball release. What do you feel like? What are you feeling there? Are you do you feel like your arm is just like along for the ride, like really like lagging super deep, and you're just getting like this big like rip and like
Mhm.
stretch? Do you feel like the arm is the thing leading the way, or the chest leads the way, and the arm is coming through secondary? Um, like what do you feel there from that like stretch position to ball release?
Honestly, I feel like I'm thinking hand speed, but my arms kind of like once I get back and retracted back there, it's almost kind of like just let my body do the work, and I think the core is a big part of it, and then
So you're
just kind
feeling
of
like right here, almost like this is
yeah,
the chest is the thing leading the way, and the arm is almost
yeah.
like it's almost like lagging a hair behind there, and then the
Mhm.
arm
Yeah,
gets
I
pulled
almost
through.
feel like my front arm is just as important as my throwing arm. Just kind of like um, pulling with that, and just keeping my core rotating, in the same, like not getting too ahead of myself. Almost just kind of like letting my core rotate, and then my arm will follow, and then I kind of think hand speed at the end. If that makes
Gotcha.
sense.
Yeah. So you do kind of like it's pretty much like glove arm core, and then like last second, now you're like,
Yeah,
let's bring the arm into this throw.
yeah. I'm kind of like, all right, now let's rip it at the last second.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, I'm curious where do you get sore from throwing? Like, are you just back of the shoulder, lat, like a little bit of forearm, or not really get sore at all?
I honestly haven't really been getting that sore this year, which is good. But if I do, it's usually back of shoulder and lat, and maybe a little bit lower back.
Gotcha. But you're able to recover pretty well then, like, because you say you throw high effort, like what 3, 4, 5 days a week. You're throwing it pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's helped my recovery a lot. Just kind of, I mean, I'm prepared to do that every day now. So it's kind of once I get in the mound and do it, or get in a game and do it, I'm able to recover a lot faster after.
Do you find that was something you had to really build up to? Like after Tommy John, it was like initially like you might be sore from like 20 pitches at 80%, but like you had to build up to that capacity over time, or you've always been a guy that you don't really get that sore. You have kind of a rubber arm.
No, that was definitely something I had to build up to, and I mean, just working through that throwing program and coming back in the fall, I think I was just trying to build my arm up as much as I could. So throwing the high effort every day, I think I was able to build that up, and then now just kind of lead to where I am now. I'm not really even getting too sore after I throw, so it was definitely something I had to build up and work on.
I'm curious. You mentioned that your coach at Tennessee, Anderson, tried to kind of get you a little bit more directional, but has largely not messed with you a ton. Uh, have you had coaches try to change you like all through middle school, high school, where you had to like maybe were like, screwed up a little bit mechanically and had to like figure that out, or have you largely had hands off coaches? Like, has anyone come in and tried to like really screw up or change or adjust your mechanics over time, or has it really just been like this natural evolution of these are just the patterns that have kind of emerged over time from trying to throw hard and trying to be smooth?
Yeah, no, all my coaches have been awesome. Like they've all kind of been hands off and let me just kind of naturally. I mean, if I'm trying to throw hard, I'm probably going to get into good positions, and they've kind of just let me progress throughout the years and see where I can get with that. So I haven't really had anyone try to do anything drastic. I mean, in high school, like obviously they're going to try to help me here and there, and at Walters here and there, but um, I mean, it's really just kind of I'm trying to throw it hard, and my body's going to naturally get in these positions. So they're kind of keeping their hands off there.
Gotcha. I mean, just to share like kind of my take on this is, um, I've been through like minor league process. I've coached hundreds of athletes like who've been through the process. So many of the guys who've thrown like 100 miles an hour don't currently throw 100. It's somewhere along the lines like either injury or in a lot of cases like it was a coach trying to put a stamp on a guy. Unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
um, so my advice to you is like you sound like you really understand what makes you good and why you're able to throw as hard as you like throw. Um, the better you can understand that, the better you can like fend off if someone's trying to put their stamp on you and change things because you're in such a good spot right now for where your mechanics are that if someone comes in and says like, hey, you have to shorten your arm action, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, it's like hopefully by at this point you like understand what makes you good. It sounds like you do to where you can have like a little bit of like this is how my body likes to move, and not running. There's so many guys like first round guys throw 100 in high school, come in now they throw 94 because like they were
Mm-hmm.
changed. So I think that's great that
Mm-hmm.
you seem to have a feel and understanding of like what has made you successful, to where it's just being cognizant of that because you're going to run into that at the next level and just
Mm-hmm.
being aware that that's going to come and knowing ahead of time like why what makes you successful so that it's less likely to screw you up down the road. That just be my
Mm-hmm.
like I have to tell you that just for
Yeah.
my sake so that you can kind of be aware. Um,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah. Just to piggyback on that as well, like just to insert my theory here, it's like to throw 100, like so many things have to go right that almost any change you make to a guy is going to screw him up. To throw 103, 100, 400, 5, like almost like if anything you change about your mechanics right now is most likely not going to help because it's like everything has to go perfect. So just like remembering that it's like you're in a good spot right now. I think
Mm-hmm.
everyone can see that, and we're pretty excited for like seeing the future of Ben Joyce.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think that was a kind of a problem I had early in my college career was I would try to change something every time I threw, and then I just kind of realized like if I'm going out there and trying to throw hard and compete, like I think my body's just gonna get into the positions that it needs to be to throw hard. So, and I think that's also kind of helped from going out there and throwing hard every day, as my body continuously is in those positions, and I think it's helped with mobility and everything else, just getting deep into those positions and putting force on it. So yeah, I think it's just kind of like letting my body do what it needs to do.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. And you're finding those positions like emerge naturally versus forcing them trying to be robotic. Like just I think you're in a great spot right now. Um, Two final questions. Do you do you look at any of the comments online? Like there's so many people that seem to like say like Tommy John incoming, like this guy's not like couldn't compete at the next level. Like, what do you see when you see those comments? Like, does that just fire you up, or you're just like, I don't even care about those people? Um, you said you have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. Like, I'm just curious. Like, what do you think when you see some of those kind of haters posting on some of your stuff?
I mean, it doesn't really bother me, honestly. If anything, it kind of does fire me up a little bit. Like, I mean, I guess if you have people saying that stuff about you, you're probably doing something right, to be honest. So I don't know. I don't really try to look at it too much, but I mean, people will even comment on my Instagram pictures or something. They'll be like, "Tommy John incoming," or see you and Tommy John in a couple
Yeah,
years."
yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. I just try to kind of push that away. I don't know. It doesn't affect me too much.
Yeah, like or can he command it? Right? They're like, it's one of
Yeah.
five. Can he command it? It's like I think you've shown you can command it. What's one thing you could tell you wish you could tell your younger self? Like if you go back in time to like the 15-year-old Ben Joyce, like what would it be? Or if you could talk to like a high school pitcher right now who's like, I really want to play the next level. Like what would your piece of advice be, or something you regret that you would go back and change?
Yeah, I mean, if I could talk to my younger self or high school player, I'd probably just say trust the process. Like you're not gonna get that instant fix and just magically like have those offers you want. You got to put in a lot of work and a lot of hard hours that a lot of people aren't going to see. And I think that really kind of helped me a lot. Just I kind of had that chip on my shoulder, so I wanted to work harder than everyone, and so you just kind of have to trust the process, even if you're on a team with guys getting recruited and you're not, or if you just feel like you're not growing or gaining weight like you need to. You just got to keep putting in the work and doing what you need to do to get to the next level and get to where you want to be, and eventually it's going to work out.
Awesome. And obviously that involves having a process, right? Like trust the process doesn't just mean like do what everyone else is doing. Like putting in the work,
Mm-hmm.
part of that means like if you got to do the research and learn about nutrition and find someone who understands strength training or uh, figure out about mechanics, like part of that is like developing your own process,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. I mean, I did a ton of research on nutrition and what do I need to eat to gain weight, and what do I need to do to get stronger in this area, or throw harder in this area? Like, what positions do I need to be in? Just, I mean, it was a lot of research and a lot of work for sure.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people don't see is like what happens on the field is like the tip of the iceberg for what it actually takes. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to go to practice, try hard for your 20 pitches in your bullpen. Like it's easy to compete on the field. What people don't see is like the guys like you who are obsessed. They're thinking about it 24/7. They're like going home. They're like, what can I do to get better now? What do I need to do differently? What can I learn about? Um,
Yeah.
a lot of people like take that for granted. They don't understand like there's a constant like need to get better and learn and improve the process. So it's really cool to
Mm-hmm.
see that like that's the process you've taken. Yes, you have like some genetic gifts, but there's so many like 6'5" guys who have good mobility and are strong. But
Mm-hmm.
you've taken it to that next level where you've really developed your own process and have an understanding and a reason for it wasn't a mistake that you got here. Right? That's
Mm-hmm.
what to me is the coolest thing. It wasn't a mistake. So I
Yeah.
think that's really valuable.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's all I got for you, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy. I know you got some more 105s to throw. So I'll let you get back to it. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to kind of leave the viewers with?
I mean, I mean, like I said, you gotta trust the process. Like, there's not gonna be a quick fix. You kind of gotta keep doing your thing and find what works for you, and just let your body naturally do what it's gonna do, and don't try to change something in a day. So, I mean, that's kind of what I would give to my younger self, and anyone who's trying to throw harder.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you, Ben, so much for doing this. I think the people are going to love it.
Mhm.
Obviously, they can follow you on social media and keep in touch. We are very much looking forward to following your future pro career and seeing what everything has in store for you.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. That was fun.
Yeah, for sure, man. All right. Thanks again.
All right.